One thing they're getting very good at here in Austin is spending a lot of money on terrible ideas. If you pay taxes here in Austin, what I'm about to tell you should get you very upset, because I'm going to tell you how the city of Austin blew $250 million on electric buses that they can't even use. And that's right, that's billions with a B. In the fall of 2021, Austin announced they were going to spend $255 million of taxpayer money to buy 197 electric buses. At the time, this was the largest single purchase of electric vehicles ever.
The transition to an all-electric bus fleet can't happen soon enough. I mean, how many people have been standing along the street when a diesel bus goes by and there's a giant cloud of diesel exhaust? We are eliminating that with this transition to electric buses.
There was a lot of excitement when they rolled this out. But what they don't want you to know about is that today, less than 3 years later, they're scrapping all these plans. They've got 23 electric buses in the fleet, but they can't use them because when an electric bus breaks down, they can't get the parts to fix them. And even if the bus is operational, it can only be used on about 36% of the routes in Austin without having to recharge in the middle of the route. And even though they now know that these buses are not going to work, they're still on the hook to buy another 87 of them. And it gets even better than that. Those 87 are supposedly going to be built by a company that's gone bankrupt. Now you might think this is too crazy to be true, but this is the way they do things in Austin. Let's take a look and see how this actually happened. The city of Austin has a long track record of making bad policy decisions. And anytime this is brought up, everybody wants to turn it into a political argument. But this transcends politics. This is about fiscal responsibility. If someone gets elected to the Austin City Council, they're going to make about $120,000 a year and get to vote on their own pay increases. They get full access to the city's checking account, and every year they blow millions of dollars on programs that, one, are almost guaranteed to go over budget, and two, rarely turn out the way they originally said they would. But the programs usually are socially and environmentally conscious, and people in Austin love that kind of stuff. The story of these electric buses began with Project Connect. This is a comprehensive transportation proposal that would expand Austin's transit network, including new light rail lines, new rapid lines, and more services across the city. The money to fund this would come from a property tax increase, and voters actually approved this in 2020.
Both of them passing this morning, but let's start with the big one. That is Prop A, and it'll increase your property taxes if you live in an Austin City Council district, which you'll notice that impact on your January tax bill. That's something that opponents have been really concerned about throughout this entire election, and the property tax increase will fund Project Connect. That brings 19 miles of light rail lines and 26 new stations to the city over the next 10 years.
Now, almost immediately after this proposition was passed and that property tax increase was locked in, then it was announced that the budget for Project Connect had nearly doubled.
The estimated cost of these light rail lines nearly doubled due to skyrocketing construction costs and the price of land.
This all-electric bus fleet was part of Project Connect. And even though everything else for Project Connect was way over budget, they placed the order for these buses anyway. But they didn't order just one or two of them to test them out. They ordered all of them. When the first ones arrived, they were put into service, and then they figured out that the hilly terrain in Austin, along with very high summer temperatures, meant those buses consumed more energy than they had originally anticipated, which meant they weren't even able to complete most of the routes before needing to be recharged. On top of that, these electric buses broke down more often than diesel buses. And in 2022, when these electric buses were less than a year old, on any given day, half of them were in the garage waiting on parts. Nobody associated with Cap Metro, the City of Austin, or Project Connect ever acknowledged any mistakes were made. But they did come up with new ways to spend even more money to correct the problems that the buses caused.
Where we're trying to train people up, we're trying to get mechanics to come and be part of the Cap Metro team and family, as well as getting the warehouse and getting parts in here. Part of our new PV Expo service, we're incorporating what we call end-of-line charging. So that way, as the bus is out there, it at the end of the line gets charged.
Their argument was that it was new technology and that there were certain kinks to be worked out. Well, if it's new technology, shouldn't you have worked out those kinks before you invested that kind of money and committed to converting your entire fleet to electric buses? Austin is a city that loves ideas. They love the idea of being socially and environmentally conscious. But where does fiscal responsibility fit into that? Austin is one of the most highly educated cities in the country, but they make some of the biggest financial blunders that make them look like complete idiots. The idea of an entire electric bus fleet looks great on paper, But instead of researching it and analyzing the risk of committing that kind of money to unproven technology, they jumped in, blew millions of dollars, and now they need millions more to go out and buy the right kind of buses, either diesel or diesel hybrids where the diesel engine could charge the battery. One part of Project Connect that's already complete is the Red Line Transit Rail in North Austin. And if you check out this video, I'll tell you about the housing options along the rail line.